What informs your relationship with accountability? Hey y'all, welcome to season 2, episode 11 of the Prolific Shift Sunday Sit Down. I've been waiting for this one, and I've been waiting for this one, not for y'all, but for me to talk through and think this out for myself. I think I told y'all in the last Sunday Sit Down that last week's question that was really thinking about how we are complicit in how we participate in white supremacist structures or structures of systemic oppression, however you want to name it, whatever you got to call it for you to name it and understand how you work in and through it. And I talked about that one last week as creating a sort of layer or foundation for this week's question. So this week's question, as you heard when this video started off, is what informs your relationship with accountability? I want you to know straight up, Prolific Shifts is not a space where I'm trying to tell you how to do something. This is an offering. Take what's useful, leave what's not. But if you decide to leave it, kind of ask yourself why you're leaving it or what you might want to think about around that. I guess that's kind of advice, but I'll just leave that with y'all. These are offerings, things that I'm often thinking about, and that I hope help us to get to know ourselves, like get into it. I was just reading the ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing, and there's a lot in there about, well, a lot. I just read an essay in there that talked about getting into it as intuition. And that's really one of the goals, I think, of this space and of offering questions and action items. It's because no one can really tell you how to do what you need to do. There's a lot in there that's awareness. There's a lot in there that's being honest with yourself. And there's something in there that relies on others or community or interdependency, but really it's a lot about what we decide to do and how we approach it from that perspective. And I think that thinking about accountability is like that too. I have had, working in schools, we're not short on opportunities to be thinking about accountability, both interpersonal, organizational, institutional accountabilities, like how to account for how different groups of people have been treated throughout space and time, for different reasons and under different policies and under different leaders and under different teachers, under different whatever. You can take this from education and you can put it in the corporate world. You can take this from education and put it in churches. You can take this from education and put it really in any structure, in the law. How have things come to be, and how do you account for the things that did harm, generations of harm, like intentionally, right? With a plan, strategically or otherwise. But what does it mean to bring to account things? And how do we think about that too, related to things like the prison industrial complex, right? Where we know that kind of what we want to do when people do things that we deem as counter to culture. And in some cases, before we even do justice to their investigation or whatever, we want them to go away, go into this money-making place called a prison, where the goal historically has not been to rehabilitate, has not been to re-enter into community. But one thing that we also have, like from different wisdoms, like indigenous wisdoms in America, some different collectivist and communal societies in Africa, lots of other things that really thought more about how to bring people back. And when I think about accountability in that sense, as an accountability with the goal of repair, with the goal of bringing someone back, it shifts everything that I know I have learned to be true, right? We get a lot of messages from our youth on about like what it means to mess up, also what it means to be harmed, and also who gets to decide what happens for the person who has done the harm, or who gets to decide what happens if the victim doesn't get to decide or doesn't have input into that situation. But the question here today is to get us to really not just sit here and say, this is what informs my relationship with accountability. But first, you got to sit there and really think about what you believe about accountability. What does it mean for you? Like when you think about someone being brought to account for their actions or perceived actions or actual actions, whatever it is, what does that mean for you? And then when you think about that, then we have to really think about, why do I think the way that I do? Is it because of something that didn't happen for me? Is it because of how I was raised and what happened? Is it because of some guiding text that my church uses, or my synagogue uses, or my mosque uses, that had a lesson in there and we rode with it? Why do I believe what I believe about being brought to account? What values are in there, and do those values stand up when I think about like what I profess to stand for? Do those values add up with how you would want to be treated if you were the person in the wrong or who had done harm? Or does it add up with how, if you've not been on the other side of harm, does that add up with how you want to be in that process? What really informs what we believe about being brought to account? This one is important to me. And I think part of it is that it's a term that is tossed around a lot. Like, I think when we talk about justice, we're often thinking actually about punishment. And I don't know that that's wrong. What's also in this book, the ISIS Papers, is called the subtitle is The Keys to the Colors. One of the things that it talks about is, and this is from 1989, right? It was 19 years in the making in 1989. But one of the things that Dr. Cress Welsing talks about is how, first, we need to be trying to get justice in this country and in this world, and then peace. And so there's like this idea in there that justice is not necessarily peaceful. But I think that there'd be hard things that happen that don't have to be about, an eye for an eye, or don't have to be about, well, you did this to me, so this is what I'm going to do to you. But that can be more complex, and that can, I think, if we, depending on what we really believe in, might shift the way we actually feel about what it looks like, what it feels like to be brought to account. And, there are big things to be brought to account for and smaller things to be brought to account for. I think of sometimes like the promises we break to people, and we kind of laugh it off. We're in an age where you just make a meme and say, oh yeah, I'll let you know, but I really mean no. That's a broken promise. That's an interpersonal, interdependent issue, right? Or the when you take time for yourself and don't answer the call, but you have agreed with someone to be a support for them. Like, what does accountability look like for that? And how intentional are we about the things that we say and do in relationship? And what happens when we get to a point where when we are brought to account by folks we are in relationship with, or friendship with, or romantic relationship with, family relationship, working relationship with? What happens when we are brought to account and we don't like what we hear? Like, we're the ones who have done the harm, regardless of what we intended to do, or regardless of what we believed and were standing on. I want us to really think about this, because I think this will make a difference. When I think about ways to contribute to a changed society, I really, really think about how we have to break free from the things that we do just because this was someone else does, or the things that we do where we are only supported, like our thoughts, our ideas, our actions are only supported by like-minded people. I want us to think about all those things and really name what that is for us and what's working in it. Try to really do some self-discovery in this one. All right, so for this week's action item, take some time to think about the values, stories, experiences, and emotions that have taught you what you know and believe about accountability. And engage in some perspective taking and situate your beliefs and your knowledge and other wisdoms and in community with others, and see what you learn. Like, don't think about these in silos. Pull it all together, complexify it, bring all of your history, how you were socialized, what you watched people in your family do, what you watched people in schools do, what your teachers taught you, all of that, and really think about how or if these things are connected or interconnected. And that doesn't have to be a positive connection. It could be that you were taught this and so decided to actively do this instead. But let's bring some intention. Let's lift to a higher level, a higher frequency, this thought about accountability, and start making decisions, making informed and caring decisions about what we believe about accountability. I can't wait to talk to somebody about this. So somebody better be ready. One of my friends, y'all are going to get it because this is one I've been really eager to talk about. All right, y'all. I hope y'all have a really lovely week. I am holding anyone who takes this on with deep love and care, not any kind of love and care, but that Black love and care, holding you deep in it and wishing you nothing but enlightenment and support in your process of thinking about accountability. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all again next time. Peace.